Thank you very much, Priya, for inviting me. I want to thank IPA, Satish, and others for asking me to have this wonderful discussion. And I was certainly very inspired by the opening comments Satish made, as well as Madam Pannaji made. It was really quite something to see what the vision is and where the direction is. Obviously, the pharma industry is an industry in its own right, very large, very profitable, very successful, but it's also one of the leaders in India. When we as Indians talk to the world outside, we talk with great pride about our software industry and about our pharma industry. I remember in a flight coming back, I saw my neighbor was a South Korean, and I was asking him, "Why? What is your plan to visit India?" He said, "I'm here to learn about the pharma industry." And it was gave me great joy and pride that somebody from a country that I looked up to was coming here to learn about what we are doing. And it's no surprise to me that even in the CSR front, not just the amount of money that you've spent, which is of course quite substantive given the size of the industry, you've gone in depth into some of the issues that you're getting into. The areas of CSR are vast. You're all large companies doing many things. What I will do is to focus on a few questions which speak to your focus of your company, as well as what I know is your passion to get into it. Let me start with talking to Dilip Bhai. He's the CEO of Sun Pharma, and he has multiple interests, multiple passions. But one area that Sun Pharma has done a fair amount of work has been in the malaria area. India has made good progress in malaria. We believe this decade will be the decade when we will eradicate it. I'd love to hear from Dilip Bhai what his vision for the malaria work is, what he thinks is going to be the engagement. Already Sun Pharma has done a lot. What does he think needs to be done to really solve this issue for us in India? Over to you, Dilip.
No, thank you, Nachiket. And I'm happy to share with you our experience of uh, the malaria eradication program, which we ran as a kind of a public-private partnership with government of Madhya Pradesh as well as ICMR. And the idea was to bring global experience of countries who have successfully eradicated the malaria in their country and learn from them and implement some of the practices so that we succeed in what our prime minister has announced as a objective for our country. And mm, as I see, we are already making significant progress from close to 30,000 deaths at the beginning of this century. In last 10 years, the number of deaths have come down by almost 60%, and it's less than 10,000 now. However, if we look at the disease burden, it's still significant. And the way, as all of you are aware, malaria spreads is because a mosquito bites a carrier or a person who has the disease, and then when he bites the next person, he infects the next person, and that's how the disease spreads. So the principle on which we work is that if you identify a person who is suffering from malaria and treat him rapidly. At the same time, in the endemic area, uh, provide all the prophylactic options in terms of medicated bed nets and remove all the uh, sanitation related challenges. And our experience in Madhya Pradesh, in the districts of Madhya Pradesh where we've done this, has been a significant reduction in the disease burden. And the idea was to use this as a basis for a example from which then it can expand into a much bigger project. So we continue to focus on this, and the idea is that this experience will help us moving rapidly towards our objective. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. This is good to hear. And I know that 2027, 2028 is the date by which we expect to eradicate malaria. And I'm certainly confident that your company will play a key role in doing this. This is an ancient disease. And many countries have actually 20 odd countries have declared themselves malaria free. I'm looking forward to the day when, thanks to your efforts, the government's efforts, India becomes one of them. The other area, Pankaj Bhai, you've spent some time and you've had an interest in is the mental, Dilip Bhai, sorry, staying with you for a minute. You've had an interest in is mental health. And it's an area you've been spending time in. It's an enormous burden. As Madam said, COVID-19 has caused many issues. Mental health is one of them. Could you speak for a few minutes about what your thoughts there are and what you are doing about it? Dilip Bhai?
Yeah, no, yeah. Thank you, Nachiket. I think that's an initiative which my daughter is actively involved with and is managing. The idea is to help people who, when they are in a difficult mental state, to do some hand holding and help them evaluate options, including counseling, as well as help them look at the challenges which they are facing in perspective. So we've created a helpline which is manned by qualified counselors, and we've started on an experimental basis in Bombay. The idea is to gradually use this experience to expand, and we are using technology. We are working with experts globally who are also sharing their experience so that we can adopt them in our Indian context. And your point is correct that because of COVID, at least 30% of the people who reach out to this call center have COVID related stress directly or indirectly. But we have 70% of people who call us first time call again, which basically means that they are. So we track all of this on a scientific basis. And the idea is to learn from this and expand this into a national program within next maybe 12 to 18 months.
Wonderful. So it's so good to hear about that. It's not an area that has received a lot of priority. And, you know, many parts of India, we are seeing a rise in mental health and suicide burden issues. So I'm so pleased to hear that you yourself, your daughter and your company are taking an interest in this. May I turn to you, Nilesh, for the work that, you know, Lupin has been doing. And you've done, again, work in many areas. Given the theme of health, I want to stay with tuberculosis, at least as an initial area of work. Unlike malaria, unlike some of the other diseases, unfortunately, TB is still with us. I understand that we lose over 1,000 people per day, kind of comparable to, we've gotten used to these numbers for COVID. People don't realize that TB actually has had this problem for quite a while. And of course, there are multiple causes that result in this. I'm so pleased that your company is taking a keen interest, has always taken, but continues to take a keen interest in this. I'd love to hear more about what you're doing and what you think is the trajectory should be for India to really deal with this issue in a way that, for example, China has, and to lower the burden of disease in a dramatic way.
Thank you, Nachiket. We'll talk about our CSR as well, but this is something which started kind of as a business for us as well. Especially in the early days, Lupin's focus was on diseases of national importance. TB featured very high on that list, even in the 70s. As you know, we've been the largest manufacturer of TB API and finished products. Even at times when there was little or no money to be made in the category, we ensured product supply. And you're absolutely right. In the last 9 months, TB has killed more people in India than COVID has. Even as per ministry statistics, TB kills 480,000 people each year. That's almost 1 a minute, right? In the 39 minutes that we've spent, another 39 people have died of tuberculosis in our country. And I think rightfully so, the government is attaching now the right priority. The central government has set a vision for eradicating tuberculosis by 2025. But as you know, tuberculosis is a very tricky treatment. The treatment is 6 to 12 months, and that is if it's diagnosed in time and treated without interruptions. Even before COVID came into the picture, delays in diagnosis, inadequate treatment, these were the two main obstacles achieving the nation, preventing the nation from achieving the eradication goal. And in light of COVID-19, especially, you see, even WHO reports that a lot of high TB burden countries, India included, saw a large reduction in monthly number of cases. These people have not disappeared, right? They're very much amongst us. It's just that they've not been able to reach out and get the treatment that they should. There is clear indication that COVID-19 has impacted TB adversely. And to tackle a disease of this magnitude, and even if you aspire to do it in the next 5 years, that requires a huge amount of work. To give you an idea, 2 years ago we ran a lot of TB awareness programs, but we ran a 1-year program in Mumbai where we went door to door, picking up early indicators of what could have been tuberculosis, creating that awareness, even sponsoring whatever diagnosis expenses were required. We found incidence twice that of what was expected, right? That is the hidden face of this disease. So, we are completely committed to the TB space. We make sure that we're vertically integrated, so we're not held to the vagaries of demand and supply globally. Our TB medicines are made in a plant that is inspected and approved by US FDA, so we ensure that we offer the best quality of the medicines that we offer, and we operate at scale, right? We can help partner, and we don't want to be the only ones. We want to make sure that there are other suppliers and the like as well, but we can make sure that we meet the needs of this country as we do it. But there has to be a very deep diagnosis program that has to run. I think the pilots that we've done have shown that. We've done this for the last 4 decades, and we'll do this till whatever time frame it takes to eradicate TB from the world.
Wonderful, wonderful. And there are many foundations, many entities around the country and around the world that have a keen interest in this area. I'm assuming you would be very open to building these inclusive alliances. Many of them are on this call with them to make progress on this happen. Because as you pointed out correctly, this is a giant problem. This is not a small issue that a single company, no matter how determined, can try to solve.
Absolutely. No, I think you're right. I think that's the great thing of CSR, and that's the great thing that we found working together as an industry, especially in the COVID times as well. You can partner with everybody along the way, and that's the only way you tackle things which are bigger than you. You cannot do it by yourself, Logan. Even if you wanted to, and if we chose to focus only on TB as CSR, we would not be able to solve this problem alone. We need to partner with others, and we've done that in the past, and we'd love to keep doing that.
Yeah, one suggestion that has come from some members of the audience is that in COVID a lot of infrastructure has been built for diagnosis, RT-PCR, all of this. There is an opportunity to repurpose some of that to deal with the TB problem. And what has happened, of course, since everybody is focused on COVID, TB didn't receive the attention that it needed. But perhaps now, once we are able to overcome this issue with the vaccines and all that the pharma industry has really done some remarkable work in, would we be able to develop an accelerated program so that we can do somewhat catch up with some of this stuff? I don't know what you think about that.
No, I think that's a great point, because you do need a deeper diagnosis infrastructure. You need a clinical diagnosis at the end. So I think there is the role of the clinician that has to be played. There is X-ray and the like as well. But there's no question. I think the awareness, I think at a broader level, COVID is going to be perceived in that chest disease space, and the awareness for a cough and a cold is much more, right? And typically it's lung TB that happens. So I think the awareness is going to be higher, and we should use this as an opportunity to eradicate this from our country.
Right. Wonderful. Let me turn to you, Pankaj Bhai, for your remarks. You yourself, your company, you've done a lot in the healthcare area. Specifically, I know that healthcare and healthcare infrastructure, particularly high quality healthcare, has been your passion. And obviously, as we have seen in the COVID period, the absence of this infrastructure, when required, you saw, kind of heartrending scenes of people going from door to door to find a bed, to find this, to find that. So we'd love to hear more about your vision for that. Particularly, sir, one area that I thought if you could talk to us a little bit is the whole primary care area. The hospital area is very important, no question, but there is the whole primary care area where, basic oxygen is not available, basic services are not available. Again, you thought about this quite a lot, I know. So we'd benefit from both your perspective of what you have done, but also the larger perspective of what's happening in the nation in this area. Pankaj bhai, over to you. Sir, if you could unmute yourself.
Thank you, Nachiket. So we at our company from the beginning have been thinking about this CSR program, and basically it's built on a program which we call Zydus Systri. And it has basically three compartments, three major initiatives. One is, of course, health. Second is education. And the third is innovation or research. And we've been working for several years now on these three initiatives. So as a company and as family, we work together because company has a CSR obligations, family has no CSR obligations, but can give much more. So as company and family, we work together to make sure that the kitty is bigger and we can do more. So as a result, what we initially set up was we started working on setting up education institutes. So we set up schools and we set up pharmacy schools. And they are some of the finest school in the Gujarat area. So that, of course, my father being teacher, always wanted education to be first priority, and that's why it happened. When we moved further, we said we were to move into education, to health, because that was related to our business, and we understand that much better. So as a result, we started with supporting the cancer program in Ahmedabad, which is actually a center for whole of Gujarat for cancer care. And I currently run, I am the executive chairman of that center to make sure that we treat as many patients as possible in Gujarat, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh coming here. And we treat a large number of cancer patients there, and our company support in all the activities. Apart from giving time, we also provide financial resources for that. And then the next step was obviously where to move forward and see that what can we do about the healthcare in general. And that's why we set up a medical school and a hospital. So we set up a 900-bed medical hospital and a medical college in Ahmedabad, which is a full-fledged medical college up to postgraduate. And it provides healthcare facility to the people in Ahmedabad, but also have large number of graduate and postgraduate students coming out of it as medical doctors, and also a nursing school. This next thing we set up was another one at a area other than Ahmedabad, because cities have many things to offer, but what about the backward areas, the tribal area? And we set up another medical school and a college in a backward district, or a district which is basically tribal district of Gujarat, which is called Dahod. And there we set up a 750-bed hospital with a medical college, again postgraduate, undergraduate, both. Today, I'm happy that we are able to treat annually something like 1 million patients outpatient basis at a price which is better than the government hospital charges. And we're happy that we are able to treat large number of in-house patients. Now, you mentioned about this healthcare infrastructure area. So when you set up these primary institutes, it helps. Like Dahod in Gujarat is a backward district and it's a tribal district. There was no medical facility, etc. Now, during the COVID time, we could open up a 200-bed COVID dedicated hospital there. And in the process, nobody from Dahod had to go out for a COVID treatment. And I won't boast about it, but over large number of patients who were treated there, where the lives were saved. So what I'm trying to say is that you need a good infrastructure. And the need of a good infrastructure does not mean cost. It's about careful thinking, careful designing the systems and making it happen. And I think that is possible. So we have, each of these hospitals have 300 plus medical doctors working there and large number of nursing staff. There's no problem. So that's one part of it. But then we realized that, okay, we've done for people in education, we've done something for the healthcare, but I think we've not done for the unprivileged class. And that's why we decided to support a deaf and dumb school in Ahmedabad, which is one of the oldest deaf and dumb school in Ahmedabad, which is set up by Mahatma Gandhi. I run that now as a chairman, and it actually takes care of 600 underprivileged students who can actually get benefited out of this. And I think good results we are seeing out of it. We also looked at research as a part of our initiative, and last over 14 years, we've been running a kind of a program which is called an biannual event to basically tell the Indian researchers that India can do it and how it can do it. And that's why we call some of the best minds of the world to come to India and share their knowledge, information, and ideas about what they can do for research as they move forward. So I think we do this much, but much more can be done. And one of the major things which we need to really see is what we lack in our country is a proper diagnosis system. If you diagnose the disease, any disease, tuberculosis, malaria, or anything else, in time and right way, treatments are possible and better outcome can always come in. And for that, we need a kind of a physician clinic, which is fully equipped. I did a study. In my opinion, for a 50 lakh rupees, you can set up a physician clinic which can offer A to Z diagnosis for a person, which is generally required, not highly sophisticated genomic studies and things like that, but what is generally required. And if you set up those kind of centers, it can be done. However, unless we do into a PPP model, if government is going to do it, unfortunately, it may not get you the exact outcome. If private sector is going to do alone, it may not have enough resources to do it. But if we can generate a PPP model, larger populations, even in villages, we can offer the kind of thing. So I think the point I'm trying to say, and to answering your last question, is that one can do tremendously much more in healthcare area in India. And we as in humble way, little bit trying to do everything what we can do. But I believe that there is larger collaboration possibilities between government, with the philanthropic agencies within India and outside India, to make this happen in a much, much larger scale. I believe India has enough number of people who have desire to serve the people who need the help. We need to create a platform where they can come and help us achieve that goal.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very nice to hear from you about the multiple initiatives that you have taken in the healthcare space, right from medical college all the way to ensuring that remote areas and underprivileged populations are able to get the benefit of this. One of the issues, we have limitations of time, and I would love to get into details of all the programs that have been done. But one of the issues I want to use the last 5-10 minutes to get all of your views on, which was a point that Aparnaji made, which I thought was an important perspective, that how can an industry body like you come together in some way to see if the collective impact of what you're doing. I see what you're saying, Pankaj Bhai, I see Nilesh, what you're saying, what Dilip Bhai is doing, some remarkable work in each of your areas, very, very impactful work. And I know from our earlier conversation, Pankaj Bhai, there are some areas in which IPA is already acting together to do this. Any thoughts as to, I know this is too early, this may take some years to evolve as to what is the right place, right ways to collaborate, but are there shared issues? I know, for example, COVID-19 certainly brought a lot of people together. I myself was involved in an effort called ACT, in which the startup industry, the private equity funds very quickly came together and supported creation of new CPAP devices, new ventilators, new mechanisms, because there were many, rapid innovations required, which the traditional L1 process and all that would not actually produce to do. So kind of, venture philanthropy, it was quite a remarkable 100 crore, 120 crore kind of effort, which I felt was interesting mainly because lots of people came together on top of whatever else they were doing. So I was just wondering, maybe Dilip, if you're, able to start, any perspective you have on a gentle beginning of where common cause can be made, it would be wonderful to hear.
No, no, thank you, Nachiket. And when we discuss internally, if within the industry, then as you rightly said, COVID kind of becomes a important reference point, because we've seen significant enhancement in the collaboration between the different companies and helping each other out in such a way that we could maintain consistent supply chain and also learn from each other, so that we can manage to reduce the infections of workers when they come to work. And I think it's worked out very beautifully. And at a philosophical level, when I look at the various initiatives that industry on its own currently is involved with, then I think broadly two important areas, education and healthcare, are common in almost all the members. And then I think malnutrition or hunger is also an important component of initiatives of some of the companies. So I think since philosophically all the companies are working on common, areas which are similar, may not be identical. I think if we work with a conscious focus, we can potentially look at developing a common agenda. And I think we can then look towards making collectively a major impact, because we can each contribute to the success, and that will produce an outcome which will be significantly better than what each of us can hope to look at. The other option, of course, is to also work with external agencies and other NGOs who are also trying to work. So I think as Pankaj Bhai and Nilesh also highlighted, problems that we are working on are so massive that whatever that we can do working together uh, will be useful and beneficial.
Wonderful, Dilip. Very nice to hear. Nilesh, I don't know if you wanted to add something to it from your perspective as to where you see, not force fitting anything, something that begins in a gentle way and maybe naturally gathers some momentum.
No, I do want to add, I think CSR goes very much to the soul of a company and the individuals who are involved with running the company. As you know, Lupin's founder, my father, was born in Rajgarh, a small village in Rajasthan. His father was a school teacher. There was always a sense of obligation that he had, that he wanted to give back to creating wealth, creating empowerment in rural areas. He felt that if people had the right kind of jobs and they were empowered in villages, they would be that much happier, right? And that is the philosophy in a lot of the rural upliftment work that we do, for example. But even in putting this report together, and even without really trying, so for example, IPA Together has run a spurious drug campaign for possibly over a decade. Right? Nobody was trying to make any individual benefit out of that, but you realize that that is possibly the worst thing that you can do. Like, just imagine, I gave you the statistics on TB. If those medicines are spurious, it'll make your blood boil. There's nothing else that it can do. So I think what we found in, especially in how closely we worked on a common problem together in the last 9 months, is you find the need to pull out that commonality. I think improvement in the perception, understanding of quality medicines is important in our country as well. That's something that we've kind of flagged as something that we want to get deeper into. So we talked about quality of healthcare, but I think quality of medicines is a given as well, right? So in the US, you have the US FDA playing a uniform role across to ensure that you can take with confidence, basically. And I think that is the importance that you need to have in India as well. So we feel that there's a quality agenda that we want to embark upon to just create the right awareness so that people know that what they're taking is the right medicine.
No, wonderful. I think that's an important point you're making because, the reality is the world depends on India also now. It's not simply that we are doing these medicines just for ourselves. Many parts of the world, including developed and developing world, depend on Indian medicines and Indian-made medicines. So if we have a quality problem at our end, it can have a big impact elsewhere. So I'm so pleased to see that this is an area where there has been a common meeting of minds. Pankaj bhai, any perspectives from you on where the beginnings could be made? Pankaj bhai, if you could unmute yourself.
So Nachiket, I think Dilip bhai and Nilesh both have given enough ideas around it, and I think we all work as a team. So my ideas are not much different from there, and I think the biggest advantage as an industry we have is that we definitely are competitor, but we are together in terms of doing ethical conduct of doing the business, and also making sure that ultimately we are all here for the health and good of people, and that's why we need to ensure that best practices are shared between us, they are discussed between us and adopted by each of us. And I think that is ultimately is going to make not only our companies great, but our country great. Right. That's where we are working towards too. Right. One other area which could be thought of in future is basically the area of how do we cross collaborate over a period of time to basically find solutions to problems, because the healthcare has millions of problems and different kind of problems. And can we work as a knowledge giver to create solutions to problems through basically either undertaking studies, undertaking work along with our external agencies, and also using our own internal capabilities through our scientific capabilities and supply capabilities. How do we solve problems which currently we face in healthcare system? Yeah. So there could be many problems. It could be logistic problem. It could be delivery problem. It could be even finding out a right diagnosis for a right disease. Yeah. It could be, and it could be areas where we have a cost problem that we just cannot treat the people because the cost of the input, the medicine or a diagnosis is very high. And how do we really bring it down? So all of these areas we can work collaboratively as an association, and that's where we can contribute to the society. Yeah. Apart from, of course, individual companies will continue doing the CSR work, because we believe that many of us are doing this because of internal pleasure, that we get a great pleasure in doing so. It's not for anything else, but just getting a pleasure of doing some good work.
Indeed, indeed. So one more suggestion that has come, which, something for you all to think about. Many people are interested in health. Many people are interested in livelihoods. Many people are interested in education. You all represent enormous capacity and capability in these areas. So of course, you're using your own funds, your own resources, but creation of centers of excellence, creation of deep capability, that then others can join also. Because sometimes money is there, but what to do on the ground, how to actually execute it, as all of you know, is much easier to talk about, but actually to do becomes far more challenging. And particularly there are, in the audience, foundations, other entities that have a keen interest in areas like malaria, tuberculosis, healthcare infrastructure, medical education, so many pieces that you all work on. And it could be another place where, perhaps an IPA type body could play a role, or maybe you could collaborate together and set up a center of excellence or something else, some mechanism. So that's certainly one thought that has come up as a possible way in which you might think about doing some of these solutions. And of course, there are companies that are working in other areas, not quite pharmaceutical areas, but maybe working in a district along with you, working in the same geography in an industrial estate, and I'm sure you're collaborating on the ground. But is there a conscious effort one could take? Like the government has done remarkable work in the area of aspirational districts, where they've identified some of the most challenging areas and have told all the government departments to come together and say, well, why don't we make a special? Initially, one would have thought, hey, the problems are so many, how can we solve it? But it turns out that we have seen impact. We have been able to make progress. So again, a suggestion that has come from some members of the audience and what might do. We have about 5-10 minutes. I'm keen to see if you have, there are lots of questions still, but any closing remarks from you? Let me start with Pankaj Bhai. Anything in closing you'd like to say on your behalf, on behalf of IPA as a member, towards the end?
No, I think the idea here is basically to generate a debate and discussion, to really see that there's many things can be done. Some of the examples which is basically given in this report gives you idea about how people and companies have made differences in a particular area, a particular disease area or something. And I think people can take inspiration from there and maybe take the program further. I'm sure that all of our companies and associations will be always willing to look at more to do in future. And I think there is always an opportunity to do something together. I think currently the issue is, and you said rightly, it's not the money, it's the time. It's the resources, time resource, which is the most precious today and is more difficult to get. And there, people contributing by way of his energy, time is very, very important apart from money. And I think that is what ultimately is we all will be looking forward, because though we are doing something, if there are more hands on the ground, the effectiveness of any program will be significantly much more. And that's the way I see that is a great way to collaborate.
Thank you, Pankaj Bhai. Very well said. Very well said. Nilesh, back to you. Any closing remarks, any closing thoughts that you have?
Sure. So I think just broadly at the CSR level, and in many ways, I inherited what we do at CSR in Lupin, right? It started when I was a kid. We started in '88, but I think and we're today privileged to have a voice on a platform such as this to talk about CSR. We're certainly not the only voice, but I think my take on CSR is that whatever you do has to be sustainable. And I think at some point of time, you have to be able to say, okay, if I'm not there in this, how does this continue? For example, in rural development that we do a lot of, it's a very difficult goal. I think that's what we're toying with now. 30 years into the program, we're saying, okay, how do I make this sustainable? How do I make this demand driven, for example, rather than supply focused? I think something like that in an area like that would create true sustainability. And I think that is a key question that needs to be answered in any CSR program at some point.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Nilesh. Philip Bhai, you've always been a visionary leader. Any in the last few minutes that are there, any closing remarks from you? Any thoughts for the audience, for your fellow companies as well as IPA?
The way I look at today's program, I think it's a good beginning, because I come from a old school where kind of operate from a position that whatever that you're doing, you don't talk too much about it, especially if it is helping somebody. So, and I'm learning over time that even though when these values were inculcated in me, they had relevance, but in today's context, I think when people are learning from each other, I think it's good to talk about and also consciously work with everybody to augment each other's capacity. So I think let's see how the IPA's initiative of sharing all the member companies' CSR activity leads towards improved interaction on CSR and also learning from each other so that it becomes more effective.
Thank you all. It was a wonderful discussion to listen to all of you. on this. I'm very inspired to hear the kind of interest, the kind of commitment you have in this. Sometimes from the outside, people have the view that corporates are busy running their business and they have no time for anything else. I can obviously see your passion coming out for this work that you're doing. Obviously, you're a successful businessman and you're doing very well from your for your shareholders and those stakeholders. But it's wonderful to see your interest and your attention to this broader set of issues. Let me hand this back to Priya for the next steps and for the closing remarks. Thank you all.